to Barnstable This Morning, just about 8 minutes past the top of the hour. On this Tuesday morning, I'm Sarah Colvin, and joining me live on the phone, I welcome our Chief of Police, Paul MacDonald. Chief, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I'm great, Sarah. How are you?
I'm doing well. It seems like it's getting warmer out there, which is a good thing. So, Chief, I want to talk a little bit about a joint investigation of Yarmouth and Barnstable. I know that Barnstable and Yarmouth team up quite frequently because our towns are so close together. So tell me a little bit about this most recent joint investigation.
This involves Timothy Fletcher. We've arrested him several times before, and the fact that he's out on bail on a Superior Court charge right now for distribution of narcotics. This is an ongoing investigation that's been going on for approximately a month between the Barnstable Narcotics Unit and the Yarmouth Narcotics Unit. We knew Mr. Fletcher. He's been conducting his business between Hyannis and Yarmouth, and his method of operation is that he would change hotels and motels, 2 or 3 days, and move on to some other different place. So that would make it more difficult for us to do a search warrant. They did obtain the information, and they did execute a search warrant last Thursday night. They waited for him outside. Upon his arrival, they immediately placed him under arrest. They brought him inside, and they got about 14 or 15 grams of crack cocaine, about $1,200 in cash. Also in the hotel room with him was a woman identified as Brooke Patel. During the course of that investigation, they developed information that he had a storage facility located at 500 Main Street, Hyannis. It was in the basement of the Fitness 500. During the day on Friday, they had him held without bail. They then executed a second search warrant down at the storage facility, and there they recovered almost 200 grams of pure cocaine, which was uncut. About $3,000 in cash, and 3 pistols were also recovered from the storage facility.
Wow, that's and we have got a picture of all the stuff that was recovered up there on the screen. Certainly a pretty big bust, Chief. Is it concerning at all that things like this are being stored in storage units here in Hyannis?
No, they're getting wise to us, what we do. They store in different areas. They stay at a hotel. They might be dealing from a different location. A lot of times they'll hide it out front. They'll give the product to a different person to hide and conceal. I mean, they're doing everything they can not to be caught with the product. But in their storage facility, there was all kinds of paperwork indicating, though it was in his mother's name, there was all kinds of evidence saying that it was his facility and he was storing everything there. If you also remember back 2 weeks, we had that shooting at the condominium complex at the corner of Camp and Main Street. I believe it was apartment number 12. 7 shots were fired through the upstairs window. We believe Mr. Fletcher was also involved in that, and we do believe that one of the pistols used in that event was recovered, so we'll be doing ballistic tests on that. So he could face additional charges, but he's also being charged with an armed career criminal, which carries with him, because of the record, a minimum mandatory of 15 years. So this is a significant case.
Absolutely, and you're just looking at the press release, 61 previous criminal charges, many of which involve cocaine distribution, firearms. So, as you say, certainly that.
And he's out on bail on several of them right now, which is crazy.
Indeed, but is he behind bars now?
He's being held right now without bail.
Indeed. So certainly a big bust. Do you think, Chief, that this is going to lead to other arrests, just because of the sheer magnitude of this particular bust?
Anytime they do that, they have a debriefing with everyone involved. And, of course, they want to find out what his source was, the level of cooperation, what kind of information he's going to get. They're still going through all of the paperwork that they recovered from both of the search warrants. So we don't know. Right now we have a significant investigation going up out of Brockton, and we believe that is connected with Mr. Fletcher.
Indeed. Talk to me, Chief, a little bit about your collaboration with Yarmouth Police and why it's important to do that, and how often you do kind of share information and work on investigations together.
Well, we share information with all the Cape departments. As you know, Yarmouth has an officer assigned here with the street crime unit, so does Mashpee. We work very closely with Falmouth, Sandwich, because it's not uncommon for these drug dealers to live in one town and do their business in a second town. So, if we don't track down all of these leads, we're really kind of wasting our time. If you go back to the incident a couple of months ago where there was a meth lab down in Falmouth, that investigation started with a couple of homeless individuals on Main Street, Hyannis, who had some meth. if the detectives division didn't have the foresight and just simply locked those two individuals up for possession of meth, that would have been the end of the case. But they didn't. They brought them in, they interviewed them, they interrogated them, they found out who their friends were, and they were able to track the source back to Falmouth, to the meth lab down there where the product was actually being produced. And that's key. We want to go after the people who bring the large amount of narcotics into the town. Going for the low-hanging fruit, we're not going to solve this problem.
Absolutely. And about the hotels, I mean, obviously,
Yes.
we hear a lot about these busts
Yes.
happening in hotels,
Yes.
people using those rooms. Is there anything that can be done, or is there anything that is currently being done to try to reduce those instances?
Every time we do a search warrant, and I can think of three, just off the top of my head, the International Cuddles and Bubbles, International Cuddles and Bubbles on Main Street, the Roadway Motel on 132, and the Craigwood Motel. We have executed multiple search warrants there at all three of those different locations. And what we do, as soon as we do that, we issue them a private property ordinance violation, at which time they all come in. And because of that, we develop a working relationship with all the managements from all three hotels, so when something suspicious happens, they call us right away. So even though we are doing other narcotics investigation in those motels, we are doing in cooperation with the management, which makes our job a lot easier.
Great. Well, Chief, obviously a successful bust here. What else has been happening this past week? How's it
There was
been?
also an armed robbery Saturday night, Sunday morning in Centerville. An individual was picked up by two other individuals, both of whom he knew, at the corner of 28 Knowles Stage Road. Once he got in the car, individual in the back seat put a towel over his head, started choking him. A fight ensued. One individual tackled him, another individual pulled out a knife. They took his shoes off, they took his pants off, and they took his money from him and his wallet from him. What's weird about this, they all know each other, so once they called us, it was relatively easy to identify everybody, and they were all subsequently arrested. Philip Monroe, who lives in Centerville, he was the main aggressor. He was charged with the armed robbery. He's currently being held house correction for $2,500. So the second individual, we only have him nicknamed by Screech, and we're trying to identify him now.
Indeed. Well, Chief, I thank you so much, as always, for joining us here on Barnstable This Morning, and we will check in with you next week. Have a
I'll
great
talk
day.
to you then.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Chief of Police Paul MacDonald joining us as he does each and every Tuesday morning here on Barnstable This Morning. Now time for our community profile.